Current UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya has hit back at critics, calling his most recent knockout win against Alex Pereira to reclaim his belt a fluke and a Hail Mary. In the main event of UFC 287, the world watched on as Israel Adesanya attempted to reclaim his belt against the man who just finished him to claim it in Alex Pereira. Their combat sports history stems all the way back to kickboxing, with Pereira at the time holding a 2-0 record against the last stylebender in kickboxing and a win over him in MMA. Despite having finished Adesanya in the final round of their first meeting in MMA, the betting outlets still had Adesanya as the favourite coming into their rematch, perhaps because Adesanya was up on the cards in their first matchup and almost finished Pereira in the first round before he was saved by the bell. Adesanya proved the bookies right and etched a win against his longtime rival by way of a brutal knockout, with two huge right hands as he was against the fence. The position he was in at the time looked eerily similar to when Poatan had him against the fence in their first meeting before teeing off on the last stylebender. But this time, Adesanya committed to throwing and it ultimately paid dividends. Fast forward to today, and Israel Adesanya has addressed some critiques of his performance that have been circulating, commenting that Israel basically just winged punches as a Hail Mary and fluked to victory. Most notably, former two-division champion Henry Cejudo branded the victory a Hail Mary, insisting that Adesanya threw the offense as a final attempt to prevent being stopped by Pereira again. During the first episode of Ramble, Young Man Ramble, a new podcast that Israel Adesanya hosts alongside his brother on their Freestyle Bender YouTube channel, Adesanya rebuked the claims that his offense was a Hail Mary and the idea that he was in big trouble in that moment, saying, "He hurt my leg. I'm like, right, if I go southpaw to hide it, he hits me in the body and I'm like, F, okay, you know what? Just give it to him. He's gonna come close." I'm like, "You're right there now." So I gave him a few shots because I knew I could shell and I could see everything. Right, checkmate, boom. What effing Hail Mary is that? It's freestyle. Despite the lopsided 3-1 record between the two fighters across combat sports, Adesanya was quick to claim that the score was settled, and despite calls from many fans and pundits who wanted to see the trilogy in MMA, Alex Pereira was quick to announce his move to light heavyweight, an unsurprising decision given the insane amount of weight he was cutting to make 185 pounds. Whilst there have been a few to say that they think the knockout from Adesanya was a fluke or a Hail Mary, the overwhelming majority identify it for what it was, an incredible display of striking prowess and in-the-moment decision-making from an expert of fighting. Legendary commentator John Anik even went as far as to back up that Adesanya could claim GOAT status. Whilst Poatan's future debut opponent in the light heavyweight division has yet to be announced, Israel Adesanya will be watching on at UFC 290 to see who will most likely be his next challenger between Dricus du Plessis and Robert Whittaker. Was the knockout from Adesanya a fluke or Hail Mary in your eyes, or do you feel like he just seized the moment correctly and made all the right decisions? Let me know in the comments. Despite calls from many, myself included, that assumed the deal between Francis Ngannou and ONE Championship was a sure thing, following talks from ONE CEO Chatri Sityodtong on Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour, we are all now eating humble pie, as it has just been announced that the deal has fallen through. Ariel Helwani shared some details of a conversation he had with former UFC heavyweight champion Francis the Predator Ngannou regarding the potential deal with ONE Championship. Chatri posted on Twitter this week saying that the promotion would not be submitting an offer to Francis, citing a failure to align on non-financial matters. However, on the MMA Hour, Ariel Helwani described a conversation he had with Francis immediately following the circulation of media surrounding the failed deal, saying, "Francis' side of the story is a little bit different. Francis is very close to signing a new deal with another promotion, and according to Francis, he was very upfront about this, and so they left the meeting on good terms, but both of them came to an understanding that because he had already kind of verbally committed to someone, more than likely he's not going to ONE. I think Chatri wanted to do a deal with Francis, is my understanding. He came to the realization that he can't do a deal with him because he had this verbal commitment. Ngannou is very close, could even be signed this week, he tells me. This is the MMA side of his deal. There's an MMA component and a boxing component. And I think Sityodtong did the old PR move where you get ahead of it and tell your side of the story and you make it seem like you're walking away, as opposed to you couldn't come to terms because he had a deal or he wanted something else. This is painfully tantalizing news, and with the details as scarce as they are right now as of recording, only time will truly tell where Francis is headed for the next chapter of his career. Personally, it is nice to hear that he is likely sticking with MMA, as it is great watching him compete in the sport. It is also equally great to hear that he will potentially be dabbling in boxing. The only bone of contention is the hope that the level of competition he will be facing will be sufficient, and he isn't just forced to crush tomato cans for the remainder of his career. Where are you hoping that Francis signs? Would you like to see him head to Bellator or make a return back to the UFC? Let me know in the comments. This week's Tweet of the Week goes to middleweight champion Israel Adesanya for his appreciation post for current featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski. That's all the MMA water cooler talk for this week. Thanks for watching Undisputed MMA. For more MMA and UFC content, please like and subscribe to the channel and be sure to hit the bell notification to keep up to date with the latest fight news.